You mentioned KJ Winston. This is a great transition because I want to add him to the list here. This is from Not Spiker. He says, from the moment they signed, I pretty much penciled Drew Allar, Nick Singleton, Dani Dennis-Sutton as three and done types of guys, 5-star players that were going to be in the NFL after 3 seasons. But now with NIL, looking at the number of guys around the country that have in the past that would have gone to the NFL now coming back to school, rank those guys most likely to return for 2025. Again, the reality is who has a good season is going to determine a lot of this stuff. So, I mean, is that part of your answer? Nate, I want you to go first with these guys, and I'll throw KJ Winston on the list because I think he should be a part of this as a guy with the talent to be a 3 and done from that class.
Yeah. Whew. That's a great question. I look, like, just being honest, I think that their scouts, again, this is my perception. I think scouts are going to grade Nick and Kaytron highly after next season, just based on the things that the improvements that both of them made as complete running backs. And I understand that's like counter to the narrative of fan perception. I 100% I get that. And so I wonder how that impacts draft status, right? In terms of a GM that's going to make that pick, the position itself, right? Are those guys going to go first round?
It's hard to be a first round running back.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it just feels like a very high bar to clear.
I don't think, and not to cut you off here, I don't think with his physical profile, I don't think Kaytron Allen is considerable for a first round pick, because kind of like corner, height, weight, speed, athlete at running back is how you get there with extreme production and talent and all of those things.
And that, so if Nick had the type of crazy, right? Maybe the numbers aren't crazy in terms of total yards, but if he rips off a bunch of big runs and he does it in big games and he's that freak athlete that everyone saw as a freshman, if that happens, I could see that. Dani, I think, makes the most sense of any of those guys, just based on this past year. Dani makes the most sense. Dani is the one that would seem to me to be primed to go if that's where he evaluates. But man, I just like, I don't know. I mean, I would almost put all 4 of them as 4-year guys at this point. I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not sure.
Fitz, your thought there on that?
I'm looking at 2 of those names at the bottom, Singleton and Kaytron, as a running back that is going to get the stuff kicked out of it.
That's a great point.
What's another year in college do for you? Like we've seen where the most success is for running backs, and it's not necessarily the first round guys, but the guys that have the ability to take over a year or 2 into the league. And I think that Singleton and Kaytron kind of fit that. But like I look back to when Noah Cain committed, and he was like, for the next 3 years, I'm going to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. Like, hey, why would you put your body through that, which is going to hurt your earnings on the other end? Now I assume they're doing okay at Penn State, but at the same time, like, that's another animal, and that's another level of generational wealth that you can add there. So the 2 running backs to me, like, I don't, if you have good running backs or great running backs, like I think Penn State has, you can't expect them to stay more than 3 years. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with that whole thing. With Allar, the position is the most important position in football, and he's going to hear the things, that, other prime prospects have heard. So, like, it wouldn't shock me at all. It's funny because Nate said Dani is probably the most likely, but like, he's got to take another step. Like, I think he's a great player, great prospect and everything like that, but he's got to take another step in this next year. And we've seen guys that, maybe we didn't expect back at that position, because I think what's going to hurt Dani here, and I think, again, he's an awesome player and he's an awesome kid and he's awesome everything, like, whatever. But like, he's not a freak athlete. He's not going to go to the combine. He's not going to run a 4.48. It's not going to be a guy that does all those things that shoot him up the draft board in the offseason. He's going to make his money playing football. Like, he's going to put it on tape and do a really good job there. Still, obviously, a ways to go to be a first round, second round pick, but like he's probably got more to do on the field than anybody. And I say with Allar there, it's tough to, make that argument because I kind of played that out in my head before I said it out loud, which is really not the way to do this. But he's got a ways to go to be a dominant defensive end because that's where those guys get drafted.
Yeah, the guys that have the profile like him, Joey Bosa ran a 4.8 at the combine, but that's a dude who wins with his, Speaking of Bruce Lombard, Dani has been working with Bruce Lombard for the last 2 off seasons to do all these things that Fitz is talking about and putting all of the ability on the field. We are Penn State Reds. I had this up earlier here, but I want to read it for the podcast audience. Overarching recruiting football question. Do you think the current state of running back in the NFL usage, compensation, second contract will make top prospects eventually choose other positions in high school? I mean, if I were a parent, I would absolutely have that conversation. But secondarily, I do think this folds into the conversation we're having here. I don't know the compensation of a running back in college, but I think my main point here is get as much as you possibly can from 18 onward as a running back. If you're going to be that player, be a little mercenary in college. And if you're a guy that's going to get compensated, I don't know if it's even possible as much as you would on a rookie contract in your first year, but you get that in college, that's a real conversation because you need to get paid either way. And that second contract in the NFL, it's still important. Saquon Barkley is going to get money this offseason that all of us here on this, maybe not Fitz, but, Nate and I probably don't understand. But at the same time, it's not like it was with Adrian Peterson. So I think that to me, the interesting nuance is the development in NIL for that particular position, because you guys nailed it on the other two.
It should change things. I don't think it will. Like you always want to have the ball in your hand. You always want to be the guy. And that's tough for some people to get away from. I don't know which, and it's going to depend on the kid. Like, what is he a receiver? Is he a linebacker? Is he somebody that can, be that? And how much does your body change? Like, does your body output change if you're a linebacker versus or a running back versus a linebacker? Like, you don't know that. So I think the interesting thing here is like, these running backs, these really good running backs, can and should use that leverage while they're in college, like to get the most out of there, because you ain't long for this league. Like that is what the running back is. It is, I don't want to say recyclable, but it's disposable. And we've seen some really good guys just kind of fall off the table, and that's and it's unfortunate to see it, because like there's some really good like all-time greats that all of a sudden just are nothing. Like nobody wants Dalvin Cook right now. Dalvin Cook was awesome, man. Yeah. Like, and so like that's the change that I see, is like these running backs that need to position themselves to make as much money as they can in the smallest window possible. Like you're going to see that in college more and more.